Hello.
Hi.
It's Wednesday, but it's not Wellness Wednesday. It's the vertical. We're having some issues with the screen, so if it looks a little distorted today, I don't know what to tell you. We're gonna look a little bit funny.
Tried.
We did. I was like messing with the camera. I think it's because we use a wide angle lens, and the camera's like 2 feet in front of me, and so it gets a really big angle. There's some weird distortion happening. Hopefully you can hear us. Once again, let me know in the comments if you can't. Super excited to be here with you today. My name is Sydney White. I'm one of the co-founders here at Vertical Edge.
And I am Ola, and I do a lot. I'm like, what am I?
She's the co-host of the Vertical right now. That's the hat she's
Co-host.
wearing. Yes, but she also helps with customer service. She helps with some media needs. She's been a photographer at Vertical Edge with us 2 years. Really exciting. She just graduated college, and now she is helping us do our email marketing and our catalog, which big deal. Okay.
Exciting.
Catalog.
Yeah.
Really cool. Today we're going to talk about the power of visual merchandising and what it actually means for you as somebody who pops up and does retail installations, whether that be at a market or a mall for a month during the holidays, or it's an exhibition or a convention. Today we're going to get super practical. We're not going to do like a whole background on what Vertical Edge and the power of visual merchandising does. You guys know that's what we're grounded and rooted in. Really quick though, before we start, we have the DCM insert panel, the market table, and a limited launch of the Moto coming back. They're live on the website. No, they're not in stock until Saturday. We have them in the queue scheduled for delivery to us mid-October, which means they're going to get out to you late October, early November. We're really pushing that you guys just have those in time for your massive holiday markets, because I know that this is the busiest season for our retail installation crowd. We also have a second sale happening on Friday. I think there is like 93 SKUs.
What?
That's all we're doing today.
We're sorting through it.
We made a bunch of stands together, like out of like random bits and pieces. So there's like parts and pieces 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, and there's all the different variations. That does go live at a specific time via a secret link. You have to be on our email list in order to get the link. We will share it on Instagram, maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes into it. We just want to make sure that we're honoring the people that follow us on email. We have some really great email marketing things happening. We are serving up content. We're doing case studies. We're talking ROI. We're talking what does it actually mean to invest in displays and elevate your business to the next level. So if you want to get on our email list, I will drop a link in our comments at the end. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions along the way. We're super excited. Let's get started. So Olga's going to just walk us through what is visual merchandising, the definition, really broad, and what that might mean for us.
All right. So the broad definition is basically visual merchandising is a marketing practice that uses floor plans, color, lighting, displays, technology, all of that to attract a customer's attention.
Think like window displays. At its very basis. Visual merchandising first appeared in what I like to refer back to. There's like this TV show. Oh, what's it called? I told you should have watched it. It's a really good show on PBS, and he's an American. He goes to England. He starts his first store, and window displays is like a massive part. So that's, to me, like what I think of when visual merchandising started.
Yep. Any way to like grab the customer's attention. The whole point of window displays is to be intriguing. Like you want the customer to be interested and be like, ooh, I like that. I want to go in. I want to see more. And you just want to pique the customer's interest. And the way to do that is through visual merchandising. And there's some things that go into that. Visual merchandising, it's an art and a science. There are like practical things you can do that are proven with visual merchandising, but it's also art.
Which is great. Yeah. That's like, I mean, how exciting. I mean, we're all on Instagram. We're dealing with the stupid algorithm, and we all want to pull our hair out, but visual merchandising doesn't change. It's tried and true tactics we're going to give.
They work. And then the art part of it is you want your brand to have a cohesive story. Like you want to have like a color palette, you want to have a certain style, like whether you're boho or more modern, more minimal. That's where the art of it kind of comes in, and where like props come in and lifestyle selling. But it's also like the products don't speak for themselves. What you display the products with is what's going to intrigue the customer. They want to see how they can use the product.
Right.
So like, say this pot on the shelf, right? By itself, it's just like, oh, it's a pot. But then you see it displayed.
It actually isn't that great. I mean, it's a cool pot, but if I just like sit it here, kind of like we did with these candles, you're like, what the heck is that doing? It's kind of in the way.
Yep.
Some of you might actually be annoyed that there's a bunch of junk on the table, right? So now it could be a deterrent. But
yeah,
when you have them all styled.
Right? Yeah. So the key things that go into displaying products: lighting, fixtures, props, and furniture. You always have to think about these things. And then also you have to think about the customer, the person that's shopping these, and their senses. How can you evoke their senses, their sight, smell, the sound, the touch? All of these things determine how a customer is going to interact with the product.
I think about IKEA. Okay, so we've all been to IKEA. If you haven't had the glorious experience of going to IKEA,
it's an experience.
You gotta go, okay? Or Crate and Barrel or Room and Board or any of these bigger furniture stores that really segment their audience. What do I mean by segmenting their audience? When you go to IKEA, they technically, like, a lot of people are their ideal client. Meaning, like, I could go there and buy a new couch. Olga could go there. She could buy stuff for her bedroom, right? So like there's all these different niches. They also have kitchen cabinets and lighting fixtures. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff. But how do they bring us in to want to buy more than what we came there for? I think Target too, for example, they have everything staged beautifully. I mean, you walk into IKEA and the first thing you see is a beautiful display of their seasonal launch items that they're coming out with, paired with some of their timeless items. So they're giving you already that lifestyle that you want to like nitpick and take that thing and put it in your home. And you're like, oh, I want to put it on that shelf. Okay, if I have those items, I can make it look like this beautiful, chic, modern, or vintage antique, depending on who you are. Your products are going to speak to certain people, especially how you set them up. For example, Vertical Edge is known for the bright white, cream on white on neutral. It's just in wood. Okay, now we're adding this cool tambour into our styling. And what is that? It's modern, it's clean, it's kind of Scandinavian, it's kind of bohemian, but it's very elegant, and it's specifically designed for a subset of people doing retail pop-ups. Now what we've been doing is we've been styling with like black props and red props and different kinds of props. So you can see that while our brand is very Scandinavian, you don't necessarily have to have white products for it to look beautiful on our stands, which is one of the things we're working on. So when you think about like the lighting, the fixtures, the props, the furniture, I wanted to clearly point those out. Right behind us, light, okay? Furniture, these things, the table and some A-frames. Props, we've got all these funny vases, and we added some pumpkins for the month of October. Super cool. Shout out Gordon's Farm in Skagit Valley. And then fixtures is kind of like furniture because these are also fixtures. So, I mean, we tried to nail it here so you could clearly see that. What does that look like in your booth? Okay. A little bit of backup. I want to make sure you guys have a right foundation here before we move too far into the tacticals here. So in your booth, you've got your space. You've got your fixtures, right, which are going to be your displays and your stands. You've got your lighting, which most of the time is just given lighting. It's ugly fluorescent overhead lighting, or it's beautiful sunshine that you're like dying in heat of, or you're really cold and because it's an outdoor market in Washington, or Canada friends too. And so the other thing that you have to consider is props. You can, if I were to show up at a market, I would if I was selling pots, I would probably style it just like this. And to be honest, I would probably take advantage of the props as something to sell as well. In the essence of like, I would try and buy some really beautiful paintings from another artist at wholesale and be like, hey, I'd like to put it on my display. You know, I can get your name out there, but I can also wholesale some of your items. Like, let's see how you can be collaborative. If you can't be collaborative with another handmade maker, go on. You have access to Fair as a business who can buy wholesale, buy some props wholesale, because you know people are going to ask you, one, can I buy it? Two, where did you buy it? Right. So if you're not selling it there, you can show them where you bought it with an affiliate link. Again, don't forget that your main business can also have side businesses. Topic for another show. Moving along.
I love it.
So we're going to transition. So now that you've got like the idea of your booth, okay, what does that look like? We're going to talk about a case study. It's one of our biggest case studies yet on our website. It's one of our biggest blog posts. It's one of our most read emails. It's Liz from Crayon Shop. She is just a phenomenal young woman. She is a mother, a wife, a business owner. I'm pretty sure she does stuff with PTA and all of the organizations, because she is just one of those women who's like on it. Well, she does these really cool crayon creations and accessories. And so over the last 9 months, 9 months now, almost a year, we've been working with her to elevate her booth. Now, she came to us and she's like, I want this, 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 and this. I was like, great, we'll meet up. We can switch them off. We keep meeting at IKEA. By the way, I always, have to go in there. It's like an hour away from us. So if we're meeting somebody down south, we meet halfway. IKEA was our meeting point. I got to meet some of her family, which was really awesome. And she got to meet some of our family. And she has gone from doing crazy amounts of little tiny markets all over the state of Washington. I mean, 5 hours away, 3 hours away, 1 hour away, right down the road. Like, she was booked all summer long, all spring long, all winter long, to being invited to some of the countries, like USA, the whole country. She's been invited to participate at very high-end, exclusive, private markets because of her display and how she presented her brand. Now think about that for a minute. Just let that sink in. How are you presenting your brand to allow for those opportunities to come? She said, quote, safe to say that Crayon Shop has now graduated from participating in smaller market events to much larger expos and shows like the Las Vegas market, the Dallas market, etc. She actually reached out. She wanted to get some wall mounting hardware because for the next 6 months, her stands are going to go on her wall in her office while she's not using them, which is excellent use of the stands. Then we also have Evelyn from Wick and Wax Co. She's also local. Shout out Evelyn. She comes down here every once in a while and picks up her orders. She's from Lake Stevens. She just shared with me when she picked up her order that people have been asking her where her retail location is. I mean, people are so bought in to her presentation and the way that she's presented her products and her brand and her value, that it seems as if they're just coming and it's an exclusive pop-up instead of like they're just doing this and they're not part of a retail store. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about the goal of visual merchandising.
So the goal of visual merchandising is you want the customer to interact with your product. So you want to make the product as accessible as possible, but also you want them to be attracted enough to actually want to pick it up and look at it. And like if you sell clothes, you obviously want them to try it on. If you have jewelry, you want them to be able to like look at the jewelry with like a little mirror on your display. You want the customer to touch the product. Like you want them to use their senses because the more that they can interact with your product, the more likely they are to buy the product. And you have to know your store, your products, and your customers to make that happen. So like if you're selling candles, right? You want them to be able to pick it up, but also be able to smell it and experience it. So if you have a candle burning in the background, that gets the smell going as well. All of the things.
These ones are decorative.
Right. These are decorative.
So showing it in a few lifestyle settings is going to be much better here, right? Because I mean, who the heck is going to burn this thing? It's beautiful. It looks like an ornament.
Yes.
I love it.
So like we have the candles on the candlesticks. So if you sell candles like that, you want to be able to display them with the candlesticks so they get an idea of how they can display it in their home. All of these things go into making the customer want to take the next step after they see it. So you want them to see it, touch it, experience it, and then buy it.
Right. But if you think about it, the world's best visual merchandisers are like, they're on every platform.
Yep.
They're in every ads campaign. They've got all the different outlets for people to, for them to meet where the customer is at. So it's not like I'm having to find a barrier to entry to Crate and Barrel. If I want their catalog, they've got a catalog, online and print. If I want to see what they look like on Pinterest and other people's homes, I can do that. Mm-hmm. They're all over Instagram. They're all over TikTok, LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all the things, right? There is no excuse for them not showing up somewhere because they're going to meet their customers where they're at. Continue.
No, that was great. And the thing is, when looking at the stats, 90% of the information sent to the brain is visual.
It was on our Polling Tuesday.
Yep. And also customers are 93% of buyers focus on the visual appearance of the product. So if you think visual merchandising is not important,
it's
there you go.
Just a science that's emerging. Yeah. And I don't think that as makers, you guys, and especially the handicraft makers, I'm not talking about like the retail people that come on our show, because we also cater to them. But I'm talking about the solo person. You're setting up your booth and you don't have a lot of, you're not an expert in visual merchandising. Mm-hmm. So for you to be able to, take this information, digest it, wrestle with it, and show up your very best at these shows. I'm not saying like, you need the best product. I'm not saying you need the cheapest product or the highest marked product. I'm not saying you need the booth that's the most beautiful. I'm saying you need to understand who you're trying to get into your booth. You've got all of, I think it's 6 seconds now. 6 seconds is what your visual booth is going to attract or deter your audience, right? So I just, excuse me, I just went to a market in Bothell on Saturday. And I was like super excited because one, I was like, I'm going to find a pair of earrings for my friend's birthday. I need to get a birthday gift because that's what I'm doing this afternoon. And I was like, I'm going to find some. And there was 4 earring vendors. And I was like, oh, this is great because I know one of them is going to have earrings that would speak to my friend. I was really, I was boggled that I didn't find a pair. It's very rare. Doesn't happen very often. But I was grateful that there was 4 earring vendors because I had the opportunity to really look through all of them and figure out which one is the right fit. Mm-hmm. So that's what your customers are doing when they go to your shows. Got like something in my throat. Thank you, friend.
That's what I'm here for. And it's interesting when you look at how things are displayed, right? Like, especially when I go to markets with my friends. My friends are attracted to a certain kind of aesthetic. So there's always a certain booth that they're more attracted to, more drawn to than others. And those booths are usually the booths that everyone is drawn to. There's always those like 2 or 3 booths that you see all the crowds are at. And they're always the ones that are most excellently visually merchandised. And that just shows you like the effectiveness because, people are going to pass on a booth that you can see that there wasn't much effort that went into it. So the more effort that you put into creating a beautiful booth, to creating an experience for your customer, the more likely the customer is going to be drawn to it.
Yes,
that's just
100%. I think too, if we were to like dissect what those booths had in common, regardless of branding or color scheme, which are like the highlights of what they did right. I see a lot of people bringing in carpets now. Yeah. I see a lot of people bringing in like elevated tables. They're not just low tables that you have to like bend over to see their
eye level.
Yeah, they've got them. Either you use the plastic risers for your plastic tables, or you just get a bar height table. Shout out Market Table coming out. Bar height
2.0.
Or they've just got displays that are much higher so you can see them above the heads, right? They've also got like really beautiful props, right, that are countered with, they've got like a tree or some pampas grass, some kind of plant, right? And then just small props.
Yeah.
And it's not always the booth that has the most items out. It's
Yeah.
quite often the booth that has a few items
Not
out
cluttered.
that's very clearly defined.
Yeah, the cluttered booths are often actually obnoxious, and they take away from the product, because then you're just like, bam, you're just seeing all this product. But when it's not as cluttered and it's stylized, then it's like, oh, I can do that at home. Like, if I get this, I know exactly where I can put this and how I can style it. That's how the customer thinks.
And I think we're going into a new era post-COVID where these markets, when I go to a market, and I know I'm not alone when I say this, I'm not crazy, okay? I go to a market, I'm actually genuinely excited to like buy something. I'm like, oh, I cannot wait. First of all, I love supporting the market that supports us. When you're successful, we're successful, and it's great. But I love just finding that unique gift. And we're in that gifting season. Everybody's got gifts top of mind. And I feel like I have a birthday every other day that I need to shop for. So it's nice to go to a market with the expectations that you're going to find something. But then when you get there and everybody's kind of like cheaped out and it looks like a flea market, then I don't know, I want to give really beautiful items to people that are meaningful. I want to have a connection to them. I want to be able to be like, girl, I got you this candle and it's from this handmade maker. She's a local. You can get more stuff from her.
Yeah.
And then, evidently like this candle makes it around like 500 people and they're all like, I need that candle in my life. So like, I want to be a champion of that. And so when I shop local, that's like, you want to show up your very best. So without like going more off the grid, because I'm just kind of talking now, let's dive deep into the tactical things that you're going to want to take away from this podcast. You can take notes, or you can just print out our blog post, which we have ready, and we're just going to update a few things when we're done, and we will post it, so it's not going to be delayed. So the first thing that we're going to kind of talk about is the average shopper makes 3 unplanned purchases for every 10 stores that they visit. If I'm going to a market and there is 150 booths, that's a lot of unplanned purchases, which is usually how it goes. I won't lie. And I know it's not any different for you guys as the makers. We have a few really fun brands that are really big, like Zara, who talk about the importance of visual merchandising and what they do.
So Janeth Arachiga, she's a co-founder. She used to work for Zara. Now she has her own plant boutique. And in an interview, she talks about visual merchandising and how it helps show your brand personality and attract the right customers. She says, once you capture the audience, you can focus on different product exposure strategies that sell for you. And that's the goal, right? You want your product displays to sell for you. Once your products are displayed perfectly, it'll do the work for you. People will want to buy your product. You don't have to convince them, because you've already shown them what it can do. That's the goal. You want the product to do the work for you. And there's this thing called the endowment effect. And the idea is that the product holds more value than the actual product. So let's say you just have, right, we talked about this earlier, just the candle by itself, like, oh, that's a cute candle. But when you see it stylized, that adds to the value of the product.
Yeah, that's much cooler.
A set, right?
Than just this or just this. Adding them together elevates them both. I'd say like 3x.
Exactly. And so like any tactic that makes us feel a sense of psychological ownership is gonna have a say in how much we're willing to place value on the product. So if you see it stylized like in a home, as it could show up in a home, then you're gonna be like, oh, I can have it look this way in my house. You're already giving the customer a sense of ownership. Like this is my style, because when you're visually merchandising, you're merchandising for your ideal customer. So once you have it stylized the way that they would stylize it, then that's all you need to do. You're selling their lifestyle. You're showing them the experience.
You're going to elevate the heck out of their home with your products. Don't ever devalue your products either, especially when not everybody wants to buy handmade, but it's definitely way more attractive nowadays than buying from some of these big box stores.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about like the 5 senses of visual merchandising. We're gonna talk about color schemes, white space, show, don't tell. We're gonna get into different types of displays and how to style certain things, and that will wrap up the show for today. So, you've got sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Now, obviously, not all of those are going to apply to you in your niche.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a mug person, taste isn't gonna, you're not tasting anything unless you're giving out tastings of coffee, which, you could do, but I don't know how much that's gonna help you sell your product.
Yeah.
But you can bring in like smell, right? You can get custom candles that have like the clay smell, or you can bring in some of this raw clay. That's also touch, right? Like this is the material that I use. Here's where I'm sourcing some of these materials, giving a little bit of background on the actual product themselves. You've got sound. A lot of you guys actually have markets that play music, but if you have the opportunity to set the tone with like a gentle music in the background, that's definitely always elevating. Although at markets, like typically they're loud and noisy and chaotic, and you don't want to like add to that chaos. So definitely take that one with a grain of salt. You're not always going to be able to manipulate the sound. And then the sight. Like, I think, honestly, it all comes back to the sight. The first thing you're going to do is grab their attention with your branding. And branding is super important. You want it doesn't have to be the best branding, but it has to be really cohesive, thoughtful, intentional branding. Not just a bunch of random colors and random patterns and random shapes and random fonts. Like, you really want to be dialed in. Just like we have here, we have a specific font, we have a specific color pattern. We got some weird stuff on the bottom of the shelves that you typically wouldn't be able to see, but because we had some funny camera issues, you're seeing. But it's very curated. It's all picked out specifically for this scene. You want to think that way too. You want to think, how can I, if somebody were to take a picture of my booth and put it in a Crate and Barrel magazine as a feature, am I showing up the best way possible and representing my brand in a way that's authentic and genuine and captures the perceived value of your product? Also with sight, you guys know, like, you don't have a lot of space in your booth. The most expensive real estate is eye level. And I just learned this, but at grocery stores, it is really, really hard to get your cereal box at eye level.
Right.
And you go into the grocery store next time, and I want you to look at everything that's at eye level. That's all the stuff that's making the most money. Okay. And those are the brands that are paying the top dollar for that eye level grocery store shelf. And I mean, we're talking like millions of dollars for a cereal box spot. And then we've got us over here with the handicraft, and we're just like throwing things on the ground here and over there and in the back where it's dark and no one can see your product. Like, you've got 3 walls most of the time with like 10 feet on both sides worth of eye level. If you only put your product there, I'm curious what you would find out.
Yeah. An interesting thing about the cereal, though, the reasons a lot of children's cereal, they're actually not at your eye level, they're at the children's eye level. So that when parents bring their kids to the grocery store, that's what the kids see and that's what they get.
Yeah, because the kids are the ideal customer there. They are smart.
Yeah. It's all psychological. Same thing. You walk into a grocery store, the first thing you see is all the produce. That gives the impression of freshness. They walk in and it feels fresh. It's all
just a game.
It is a game. And when they move things around all the time, that's also intentional. So you walk around more, get more footprints all over the store.
Also, I would like to point out, Target, we know your strategies.
Yeah.
And
we know it.
very rarely fall into your pit of psychological doom. There's a reason why Target is laid out the way that it is. You guys should research this. It is insane. I was like, I feel I've been bamboozled and I'm never stepping foot in there again. Why is everything chaotic in that store? Why is there no real good layout? I mean, you walk in, typically you see the clothes, right? That's because it's like, that's the stuff that's going to be the newest all the time. It's not going to be set in stone. And then you start going and all the things, you just get lost in inevitably you end up spending hundreds of dollars that you didn't plan on spending. Let's apply that psychology to markets, make them real chaos. I'm just joking. Don't do that. Let's not do that.
It's a different world.
It's totally different. You don't want to apply, obviously, you can't apply that crazy tactic to your booth because we're talking a 10 by 10 space that people are typically just walking up to or walking past. So that's why you want it clean, clear, cohesive, not cluttered, right? Like, and I'm not saying if you have a lot of different like variations of SKUs, I'm not saying you can't put all the things out. I'm saying do it strategically. Do it in such a way that it invites the customer in further into the booth, that allows them to maybe start having a conversation with you. How many times have you had a conversation with somebody because they saw something, they were interested in it? I get so many emails of people that are like, your display brought in more traffic than my products, but I ended up selling because we had a conversation. How powerful is that to have that tool in your back pocket? I'm not even talking by our stance. I'm just talking by some really good ones. Okay. Like, let it be something that invites that curiosity. Okay, so you've got, don't forget sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. Okay, let me touch on the smell, the touch, and the taste. If you're a food vendor, if you're a coffee vendor, I better be able to smell that coffee around the whole market. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're indoors, I want your customers to be able to smell that coffee the minute they step in there. If you have to like waft a bunch of roasted bags open or start sprinkling around coffee beans, no, I'm just joking. But like, what do you have to do? Because the first thing I come into an indoor market, and if I smell coffee, I'm like, where is it? You just want something warm to carry. It's a lifestyle accessory now, the coffee cup. It is ridiculous. And I bought it. No shame. But like, so, okay, your coffee vendor, you really want to play into the smell of the coffee. It means so much to so many people. They should be able to smell all the different variations that you have as well. So definitely have those bags, definitely have something that's fresh. It's worth it. Also, if you can offer samples, if you've got that like food health safety department certificate that you can offer samples, definitely take that opportunity too, because especially if you're in a niche like coffee, you've got so many. Okay, every niche has competition. I don't know why I have to preface that. It's every single niche has competition. How are you going to stand out? Well, I don't know if I want to buy a $20 bag of 8-ounce coffee if I don't taste it. And so offering that taste, again, reassures and reaffirms that, one, you've got a really good product. You know, if they taste it, they're like 90% more likely to buy it, or just be like, oh, that one's not for me. What's this one taste like? Right. So it's just a gateway. I think of there's a sauce lady that we met. I need to reach out to her. She's like, we need to talk. I was like, okay, I totally forgot. So we got this sauce and it's like gourmet specialty. It's just different sauces. Andre was really into them. I was like, cool. I'm glad you like them. But one of the things that she did really well is we were walking by, Andre and I was just kind of like, oh, this is a weird part of the market. I think I'm just gonna turn around. And this lady's like, no, why don't you guys come in here? Like, come try it out. Let me tell you about my business. And I was like, really drawn into that. She was very personable. She was very happy. She could tell we had a hesitation. And instead of like just also being hesitant and not inviting customers in, she's like, hey, come engage with me. I'm excited to tell you about this. I know you're going to try this. Let's just see how it goes. And I loved that enthusiasm. And I loved that she brought me in to taste her product. The way that she presented it was really cool. The way that she talked us through how to use that for different, salad dressings and chicken seasonings and marinades and rice dishes and all the things. I was like, dang, you need a recipe book, So that's the thing. Like, if you are in that niche where you can give somebody that taste or that smell, 100%. If you're in the soap niche, you have the ability to show them the fragrances, show them the smells. I would almost like, guys, especially if you're in the candle industry, y'all are charging me like a lot of money for a candle. I want a good experience. I want to be able to say I bought a $40 candle. But to be honest, if I'm gonna do that, I need to smell it in an exciting and appealing and upscale, high-end way. You're asking a lot of money for something that people can get cheaper. Therefore, you want to show up and give them that experience. Allow them to immerse themselves in that space.
Yeah. You see, that's where visual merchandising especially is very important for handmade makers, because you are competing against the mainstream market of, mass production. So you really have to sell the product. You really have to, because otherwise people are gonna, if it's not displayed well, people are just, what's stopping them from going to Amazon or Walmart or Marshalls to buy, a $5 candle. So it's really, it's something where if you're charging a certain amount, make sure that that value is shown in the way you're displaying the product.
All right. I confess, these candles that I bought are not from a maker in the US. They're from a shop called, she just renamed, it's Maison Bohietti. Totally butchering that. It's okay. I will tag her. She makes these candles, and if you have the time to check out her Instagram profile, you will 100% understand why I bought from her over the bad photos of candles on Etsy that I saw here in the US. Not that I'm saying I couldn't find candles like this in the US, but especially this one right here, I was having a really hard time finding somebody that could make this in the color that I wanted. And I would even reach out and be like, hey, this is the one that I'm looking for. Do you have this in this color? Blah, blah, blah. I'll pay extra because I'm really trying to support US, we're a US-based company. So what ended up happening, I spent a lot of money on quality candles from an overseas maker, which is great. I love her. She's done a lot for our business now. She's allowed us to elevate our stands, but her Instagram and the way that she sells through a lifestyle and appeals to all the things that I want in my life is phenomenal. So definitely go check her out as an example of what we're talking about when we say like lifestyle selling and catering to the, the ideal customer.
Yes. And with site too, it's not just about, selling in person, also the photos you post online, right? If you have a website that you're selling the images on, what you don't realize is that customers will only read about 20% of the product description, but they will view every single image.
Every single one.
So you have to have great images if you want to sell your product.
And again, that goes to say like images. Okay, one image is worth 1,000 words. How much is a video worth?
Right.
You can add video to all the e-commerce platforms, but I think Squarespace is the only one that's still behind on that. I could be wrong, but we just haven't been on there in a while. And so that's like really crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to get into all of that, like social media stuff later in another episode, but just think about that. Like really think about, if my picture is saying 1,000 words and I'm not saying one, how can I incorporate photos into my booth? How can this be something of like a customer using it? There was a booth that I just will never forget. They had 2 A-frames, not ours, totally fine, that had like 4 or 5 pictures on each one. And next to the picture was a beautiful little display of that product. And they were bath bombs. They're like beautiful. Some of them were CBD, some of them were different scented and different colored. And the pictures were of the bath bombs or the bath rounds like being put into the water and like being held up to the light. And then there was one of like just nature in the background. And it gave me this like very relaxing understanding that this is going to help me relax, but also I'm feeling relaxed just looking at it. And it was so beautifully displayed that I was like, give me all of them. you know?
That's what you want.
I'll definitely tag that brand. I'm really bad at recall, especially all the business names that I see all the time. And so we'll tag them and you can see what I'm talking about. I think I used them as a video in our Pinterest for 30 tips in 30 days in 2021 as like, what are the 5 things your booth might be missing? Which we should bring those back. Honestly, they were really helpful. Okay. So then if we're talking about site, because site is like 90% of the equation here, especially for a majority of us who aren't going to have smell or taste, let's go into color scheme. Wherever the eyes go, the feet will follow. So use color to catch the eyes of the customer and draw them to your displays. That's what we've been saying. Color is one of the most important aspects of visual merchandising. It expresses meaning and environment and influence. It also sets the tone, the mood, the vibe, you know, like, what did we do here? I could have chosen pink. And you would have been like, what the heck, Sydney? What is that? I had to pick a color that represented our brand well, but also something that was calming but also not dull. Like, I wanted it to be like fun but calm, and we're just sitting having coffee together. This is what I wanted. This is what I went for. Hopefully that's what you're feeling when you're watching these videos. But that's through the color scheme. So some things that you might want to ask yourself.
What's the image and the feeling you're trying to create? If you're more of a boho vibe, try to stick with like earthy, neutral tones, you know, that show that boho feel. Or if you're trying to be more energetic and out there and just bam, use bright colors. But the one thing you always have to remember is like, who's your target market? Who are you trying to sell to? Different customer groups will be attracted to different things. Like right now, the younger people are into the neutrals. That's just the thing. That's what everyone's into. But if you're if you're trying to attract like an older market, probably like earthy, darker tones. So it just depends on who your target audience is and what you're selling.
But to caveat that too, if you're a brand that has neons, don't be afraid to show up with neons. There's people that love neon stuff. Like show, but don't be like 500 neon. Like pick the 2 neons, the 3. They usually, it's like a primary, secondary, and a third, you know, supplementary, complementary color that ties them all in without being the big one. So really, just tie it back into your branding. That's my kind of like go-to fallback is like, we've got a branding palette. I'm just going to stick to the palette because I know that it works well for our business. Now, sometimes we get to do fun things like fall inspired and holiday inspired and spring inspired. And we throw in like different colors. Like this is the holiday accent color of the season. We also found pumpkins that were this color at the farm yesterday that we're really excited to do a campaign on. So while you have those main colors, don't be afraid to pull in an accent color that's the holiday. No, you're not limited. Don't feel limited by that.
And then you also have to ask yourself, what colors are your competition using? Because as a maker, you are in very crowded niches. So you want to stand out. You don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So, you know, if you are more into the neutrals, just make sure you're not using the same neutrals everyone else is using. Find your own unique combinations. Usually it's like, find 3 to 4 colors, stick to them, and then use the variations and hues.
There you go. Like the translucency. Or then you can add into your different font packages. You know, this is one of our fonts, but we actually just customized it so it was like more scripty. It's great. I love it. It's fun. That being said, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, our competition. Who are they using? Black and White. They're a very industrial company, if you must know. It's displays to go. I love when they take my design. It's great. It is. I love it. But they are very industrial and they don't focus on education. So you also have to, when you're looking at your competitors, think about what kind of differentiates you. Maybe it's your style, maybe it's your props, maybe it's your scents, maybe it's the name of the product. And those are things you want to highlight at your booth to make sure that you are truly standing out. So then we're going to talk about like the use of white space. Think about like you have a display and you don't have a tent side, like one of those white flimsy tent sides, but you've got all this open space behind you. So that's what we're talking about when we think of like white space. But you could also think about white space as like, if I took this off of the table or off of this, that would be like white space, just empty, like nothing is there. And you can use white space in a few different, to reference a few different things. The first thing being for me is like, when I see a white space next to a product, I'm like, ooh, that one's the best seller. It's gonna I better buy that one because I only see one there and it makes the rest of the shelf look real bare. So you can use that tactic throughout your market booth, right? Like not having everything out actually helps because kind of evokes scarcity mindset. Not that I like to do that in sales tactics, but it is a sales tactic.
It is.
And then you have white space, referring to the areas of your store that don't include any design elements. The white space serves a purpose for retailers because it gives customers room to breathe. So think IKEA. You know how like they stage these beautiful rooms with all this stuff in it, but then think about like when you move out of that room, there's all this walkway and this space to breathe outside of being sold to you.
Yeah.
Now you're not going to have a whole lot of white space in your booth. Let's be honest here. Some of y'all are working out of a 2x2 booth, like one table, and that's all you got. And you kind of have to take advantage of that white space, being like to the sides of the stands and actually on the shelf. Was there anything you wanted to add for white space?
Just that, white space is really effective if you want to declutter your booth. So always remember, you don't want to put too much product out. Obviously, you're going to have some backstock to refill, but it's nice to have some white space, like Sydney was saying, to highlight the product. So you definitely want to use that white space. You don't want to have too much, but definitely you want to have some so that it just highlights the product and you're creating like a clean look that's not cluttered. Because you don't want it to be completely full.
Right. I see we have a comment there and I'm like really trying to squint my eyes to read it. I'll get up and read it in just a second because I do want to address it. Since you're live with us, special privileges. We're going to jump ahead. So we've kind of talked about a lot of like show, don't tell tactics. I'm going to leave that and come back to it if we have time. We've got about 15 minutes left. I wanted to talk about the different types of displays and give you tactical, like actually show you. Mm-hmm. That being said, will you grab the candlesticks down? I just want to make sure that we have enough candles to be able to pull this off here. And sorry if it's kind of loud with the clunking on the table. I'll be gentle. I keep like throwing things down. Okay, so you can do a few different things when it comes to grouping of products. I like to use candles because I have all the same color and I have some different color and then all the same size. It's really simple. So the first thing you can do is like a family of products. So this would be like a candle on a candlestick, the mug, and maybe another accent candle or a pumpkin, right? Like if I'm really trying to get like those fall vibes. So it's like a product category. Like if you're in a retail store, everything here would essentially be for sale except maybe this pumpkin. But if it's a knitted pumpkin, maybe you are selling it. So that's like a product, a family product, all different SKUs, all are complementary to each other. All items that you more or less sell, that when you sell them together, I'm a bundler. If I see a bundle like this, I'm going to give it all.
Yes.
I'm going to buy it all of it.
Upsell. Always try to upsell. Don't try to sell just one product. You want them to buy the whole set.
Yes. And when I think about candles too, I know you guys are like, stop talking about candles. I'll bring different props next time. We'll talk about like art or something. I promise. We will switch it up. Yeah, it's because they're here and they're small and they're tactical to use. Apply it to your niche. I challenge you to do that. The other thing that you can put together, I have a reel on this too. We should remake this reel too because it was like one of our best sellers. Is like putting different candles together that are all the same color. Yeah. So let's say you sell 100 different candles. But you're like, I don't want to put all of them out. She just said not to put all of them out. Put one of every single one out in a really cool, hierarchy. Work off the rule of thirds. So I'll jump to that one real quick. Rule of thirds. If you put a grid up, it's 9 by 9. Like, think about an Instagram grid. 9 boxes, 3 by 3. If you think about that, you want to have a tall, a short, a medium, or you want to have tall, short, medium. You want to have a product in each of the grids at each of the heights. So you're covering the whole grid. Yeah. I hope that's helpful. I don't know if that made any sense. But essentially, right, like here, I've got a grid with these 3 products, a tall, a short, a medium, and there's one in each of the rows. So it's not like scattered or all over the place. Also, if you wanted to, like, let's say you have 2 products that are, the exact same, but they're different colors. So, like, I have ones that are the same. Just pretend they're the same here. Let me get those around. You can put the same product together in the same color, or you can do different products with different colors, but have them be complementary colors to each other. Again, working off of that rule of thirds, that's pretty like the baseline. When I'm merchandising all of our stands with all the different niches, we're about to go do a whole pumpkin campaign. I have like 100 pumpkins that we're going to go display on like 500 different layouts for y'all. We are doing the 10 by 10 booth layout video this week, which I'm really excited. I know you guys are really looking forward to that with the hashtag Ditch the Table campaign. We will be merchandising these pumpkins in rules of thirds. Go to our Instagram feed, go to our Pinterest feed, look at how we've put products up. I'm not an expert, but I'm getting better. And the rule of thirds is like, if my brain's not working, I don't want to put a lot of thought into it.
It's really easy. Just
thirds.
3 candles, 3 cups.
3 different sizes.
Yes.
All the same
All the
size.
things, yeah.
All the things.
Yeah, either do 3 different sizes or 3 of the same size.
Yeah. Or 3 of the same color of the same size. Again, you're going to want to play around with color, shape, size, variation. I know a lot of you guys will make like art prints. And in that case, like you really want something that you can flip through, but you want to at least put a few up on display so people can see that. I'm going to have you go through by like genre, and then I'm going to grab this comment and see what it says.
So when you're merchandising by genre, that means let's say you're selling bath bombs. So you want to put the bath bombs with the bath salts and a spa candle. So you want to put those together, right? If you're selling coffee, put coffee with the creamer, with the syrup, you want to sell the things that go together so that you're upselling, right? You want people to buy more. So put the products that are related to each other together, create little sets, little bundles.
Yes. Yeah. We can make a reel too on like things that we think of goes together. If you really want to know what goes well with your product, honestly, go to Target on your own without the children or your friends and just take your phone and be objective. Or go to IKEA. Go there and be like, what are they putting together? We have a soap maker on here. What is next to the soaps? I guarantee you there's going to be a soap tray, a soap like dish thing, like the wood ones where you can put the bars of soap on. There's going to be like hand soap. There's going to be all sorts of different like scrub accessories. Yeah. Think about if you're selling soap, there's other things you could sell that are complementary to the soap. One being one of the soap ladies that I don't really like a bar soap. It's like, you know what? I always drop it. So I'm over it. I've really tried to be a bar soap person. But one of the things that I love when I see is like when I go to a market and they've got their soap, I don't like to see 500 soaps all at once, but I do love to see groupings. So if you sell different sized soaps, that's a perfect way she was talking about putting it on the A-frame. I'm like, you could totally put a picture of whatever aesthetic or vibe or mood you're trying to portray. And then right next to it, boom, gift set. On the next shelf, boom, here are the 4 different scents that we offer. Okay, on the next shelf, we're going to talk about, you're going to put up like, like maybe different sizes that you offer. And then maybe on the next shelf, you've got some kind of promo or like, if you sign up for our emails, we get this % off, or we're doing the holiday special, or even at the top, you could put really fun, holiday scents and flavors like limited edition. Back to the like show, don't tell. One of the things that I think is really important, I know we're running low on time here, is headlines. If you are able to put buzzwords all over your booth a little bit, with maybe even a little italic subheading or just the heading, make sure to try and point things out. Like if something is limited edition, okay, when you have the chance, go to our website. You can put these like product tag banners on specific stands. So what I've been doing is like saying, oh, bestseller, oh, limited edition, oh, part of the hashtag Ditch the Table campaign. And when I go to a market, I think of like, what are the headlines you're trying to get across in person that you would put on your website or that you'd put in your marketing material? Made in Oregon.
Send a message.
Made in the specific city, because the people that are coming to you are local to your area, so they're going to know where that city is, whereas on your website, it might not make any sense. Mm-hmm. You can talk about like organic, less ingredients, or all the buzzwords,
non-scented,
woman-owned, toxic-free, minority business, whatever it is, try and get those taglines in. So people can, again, identify and align with not only you as the maker, but your brand as a whole.
Tell a story. You always want to tell a story. Your product will sell better when you tell a story. It's because you're standing out. You're showing what about this product is unique compared to all the others. You want to stand out, and to do that, you have to use some lifestyle selling, some storytelling, use those big buzzwords.
Yeah. And again, back to that idea of you can use images, really nice framed images, to showcase what it is you're trying to get the customer to relate to. And on those images, you could put a buzzword on there, or you could tape it to the outside of the frame and cut it out and make it look out of nice paper. So you got those those buzzwords essentially is what we're getting at. What are your 5 major keywords that you would put in an ad, or your SEO? Oh, that's great. SEO in person. We're going to coin some of these things. This is a fire today. But we see that one of you really likes this form of the vertical. If you've been around Vertical Edge for a while, you know that it started as Tip Tuesday. It was 100 slides of an Instagram story. And I just show up whenever, probably on a Tuesday, and just blab. I would be like, wow, I'm doing this thing and I'm learning this thing, and here's why I understand why it's important. Here's how I'm doing it. And then it moved to be really concrete, okay, I'm going to do it twice a year because it's burned out all year round. And I felt like I was giving less helpful information when I'm burned out. So I was like, okay, I'll take the summer off, take some of the winter off, but we'll come back in the spring, in the fall, and it's going to be Wellness Wednesday. And that became an Instagram live series. Now that ended in May of this year, and now it's come back as the Vertical. We've rebranded. We've got this really cool space in one of our offices in Vertical Edge. This is really cool and really exciting. If this podcast, YouTube, I don't really know what to call this. I'm just going to go with the segment. One day I hope to have a podcast. I know we can translate this into a podcast one day. Don't have the budget for it right now, but hey, maybe this time next year we will. We will be continuing to deliver really high quality tips and tricks. We're going to go make a bunch of reels out of this, put it on Pinterest for you, put it on Instagram. We will be doing YouTube shorts because I guess that's important too to keep up with. So we'll be doing that. We'll be taking these tips, putting them in real life. If you have any more questions for us, definitely engage on the comments. We're going to try really hard to continuously reply to people and get you guys information that you need. Don't forget, second sale is happening on Friday, and our holiday limited designs launch on Saturday. Yeah, here we go. Thanks for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful day. I can't see where the end is. There we go.